Hi viewers and friends, it's James Kalm, your half-house reporter, the guy on the bike. And we are on the west side of Greenwich Village. We're gonna run in here to the Whitney Museum and we're gonna take in some views of Jasper Johns. Stay tuned. Yes, Jasper Johns' mind mirror. Let's take a quick stroll through the installation. I spoke with some of the Here to Help people, and they said that this is only on the 5th floor, at least this part of the exhibition. This is actually a double show. The other half is in Philadelphia. Okay, so these are the late pieces. I initially had some reservations about coming in for this. Partially it was because I haven't been to the Whitney since probably July, well, let's see, March of 2020, and we let our membership lapse. They've been sending us reminders every week or two that we should renew, and but I still have been kind of paranoid about coming in for the shows. Okay, now we're getting to the classic late 60s, 70s. I love the cross-hatching series. I think also what becomes apparent in this stroll through is what an incredibly prolific printmaker Johns is. Now, I believe that the show opened at 10 and is running until 1. At some point there will be, maybe already has happened, there will be statements to the press. Okay, the classic Johns. I'm seeing some old friends. Robert C. Morgan. Well, I was saying that I was, excuse me, I was conflicted about coming in, but I was doing some research last night, and well, of course I Googled Jasper Johns and Googled videos, and I realized that 4 of my videos are up-paged in the top maybe 20 paintings on Jasper Johns, so I think that this in a lot of ways is the epitome, the grand finale of his career. I think Jasper Johns is 91, and this particular exhibition is maybe one of the greatest surveys of his long career. It's like 65 years of work, something like that. Oh gosh. There's Adam Weinberg.
Who's that?
Nice to see you. James Kalm.
Oh, how
The
are
bad
you?
boy.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. This is a wonderful show. Here's the ironic part of that is when I started doing videos of the Whitney, I went to the Whitney Biennial probably in 2008 and was thrown out. And now Adam Weinberg, the director, is saying, hello. Okay, we're going to start out looking at this piece, probably one of the most classic of all Johns pieces. This is titled White Target 1957 encaustic on canvas. And I would estimate that this is something like 32 by 32. Oh, another iconic piece. Target with 4 faces. Okay, they're saying this is 1968, so thinking what happened is that Johns had a fire in his studio and it burned a lot of his early work. Okay, I thought that this was in his first show at Leo Castelli in 1957. Target with 4 faces, 1968. Graphite, pencil, charcoal, and pastel over screen print on paper. Disappearance and negation. Moved to New York in 1953. Following discharge from every blah 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 blah. Tennyson, 1958. Well, I said that I had covered several of John's shows about 12 years ago, maybe. They had a show at the Met titled Gray. And, well, I covered that, but the entire show was based on his pretty consistent use of gray. It's titled Voice. 1964 to 67, oil on canvas with objects. One of the things I enjoyed about Jasper Johns is that he's very much aware of being a painter, what it means to make a painting, how do you make a painting, all those questions. And he and Rauschenberg played a lot of games and were kind of bouncing off the whole kind of heroic existentialist myth making of the abstract expressionists and the action painters. This is No, 1961, encaustic sculpting metal collage on canvas with objects. So anyway, John's always kind of played a lot with the whole idea of what does it mean to make a painting, how do you make a painting, how do you apply the paint, what is a canvas. Okay, this piece is usually at the Museum of Modern Art. I believe this is Diver, 1962-63. Charcoal, pastel, and paint on 2 sheets of paper mounted on 2 adjoining canvas supports. He's talking about Johns as a printmaker, but one of the things that is maybe the most consistent feature of his work is his draftsmanship. It's a little sculpture. It's Judd Tully. Alley Oop, 1958. Okay, this is like the beginning of the time period. Oil and collage on cardboard mounted on fiberboard. So he's used a piece from the Sunday comics and pasted it on a board and then painted over that, which I guess kind of is a harbinger for the pop art thing. This is titled Numbers, 1960 to 65, encaustic over lithograph mounted on canvas. Okay, so he was already doing prints and chopping them up and painting on them and incorporating them into other pieces. Beautiful little piece. There's another big drawing. High Diver, 1960, charcoal and pastel and collage on paper. I think one of his famous quotes was, take something, do something to it, then do something else to it. It's titled Liar.
Excuse me if I may.
Well, I was just informed by the guards that I should put my backpack on my front because I was getting dangerously close to backing into people. It said this is Liar, caustic and sculpting metal. It's actually interesting to see the what they call the foxing or the staining of the encaustic onto the paper. This is 1961. I may not take this much time with some of the other parts of the show. Good Time Charlie, 1961. Encaustic on canvas with objects. Well, I'll run through a brief narrative about Jasper Johns. It says he was born in 1930 in the North Carolina. Painting bitten by a man. Okay, so this goes to what I was talking about, him joking about being a painter and making paintings. He was drafted into the military and came to New York in 1953. It's titled Water Freeze 1961. It's encaustic and collage on canvas. And he's got a little thermometer mounted in there. Let's see. I was gonna say, is this hot or cold today? Disappearance 1961, encaustic and collage on canvas. Okay, now we're going to get to see some of the flags and maps. You can pause this and linger over it. It's a beautiful little piece. Flag above white with collage 1955. I think one of the challenges that we have when we look at an artist like Jasper Johns is that this work has become so ubiquitous and is such a part of everybody's art history, consciousness, our memory, our DNA, that it's hard for us to see this with fresh eyes. Oh gosh, I'd love to have that little piece. It's probably titled Small Flag. Map 1965. And even if you didn't have the Jasper Johns imagery, the maps, the flags, the targets, the numbers, the alphabets, there's just a kind of an obsessive grinding and scribbling and somehow making the image appear just through the sheer force of will that a lot of people have picked up on that. So I think maybe Giacometti could be one precedent for that kind of obsessive working and reworking of the surface. This is Flag 1965. oil on canvas with object. It's another kind of interesting thing that I like. There's always a conceptual aspect to this, and that was that Johns was studying and thinking about the after image, and theoretically, if you look at this flag with the orange star field and the green and black stripes, and you stare at the little white dot in the middle, and then you close your eyes, you'll evidently have an after image of the red, white, and blue. Map 1962 to 63. Well, getting back to my little narrative, so Jasper Johns comes to New York, and I guess at that point he didn't know whether he was going to be a painter or a poet or a novelist, and from what I've heard, the rumors at the Art Students League, he actually worked at a bookstore up near 57th Street, and I walked by it probably hundreds of times. This is White Flag 1965. It's encaustic. He ends up meeting Robert Rauschenberg. They become bosom buddies. I think they actually start a window dressing company. And there's another interesting part of this. They ended up moving into a building that was in a new neighborhood for artists. It was down by a place called Quinty Slip. They weren't actually on the Slip, but they were on Pearl Street. And this is kind of at the end of the abstract expressionists period, end of action painting and all that existential angst of the World War II generation. This is Flag on Orangefield, 1957. I'd say that piece is probably something like 66 by 48. Oh boy, here is the archetypical map. It's 1961. Well, one of my projects is to throw out the theory that whenever you have these kinds of paradigm shifts between what was happening with abstract expressionism and action painting, and then the shift over to, well, first through Neo-Dada, which Johns and Rauschenberg, maybe some ancillary people like Larry Rivers were kind of involved with, into pop art. But along with that, you have the social structure with the people, and a lot of these groups of people are bound together by where they live, by the geography. Another classic piece. Okay, this is from the Whitney's collection. It goes to the point that I was talking about of thinking about what a painting is, what an object on a stretched canvas is. They were talking about, well, so Jasper Johns meets Rauschenberg, he's working, and at some point it says he has a dream about the American flag, and he wakes up in the morning and decides he's gonna burn all of his old work and start a new series based on the flag. I don't know whether that's apocryphal or not. This is map 1963. This is interesting because this kind of shows him breaking out of his grays, and there's a lot of pedimenti underpainting, and there's some actual color. So here he's got his little color chart, red, yellow, and blue. It's encaustic and collage on canvas. There's a lot of charcoal ground in there as well. And I was just talking to someone about Johns is being influenced by Ludwig Wittgenstein. And when you see what he's doing with a lot of the text, sort of playing things off, repeating images, overlaying images, it makes you appreciate the philosophy of language, maybe. Oh, this is quite an installation. In memory of my feelings, Frank O'Hara, 1961. Frank O'Hara was a poet, one of the stalwarts of the New York School of Poetry. Larry Rivers was pretty involved with Frank O'Hara. I used to work with Larry, and I saw that he had a huge standing nude portrait of Frank O'Hara that he had in the studio. Frank was naked, except he had a big pair of engineer boots on. These are some of the drawings. Oh, I'm not sure, but I think that he would do some grind some graphite in there and then used glycerin or something to transfer the impressions of his face. Okay, this is also dedicated to Frank O'Hara. Memory piece, Frank O'Hara, 1961 to 70. Wood, rubber, sculpting metal, lead, brass, and sand. Okay, well, maybe that's because Frank O'Hara ended up getting killed. He was late at night on Fire Island. He was sleeping on the beach and somebody drove over him in a dune buggy. Pinion, 1966. A lot of the drawings and prints. From Eddingville, 1969, ink and graphite pencil on plastic. Yes, Johns does a lot of his work on drafting film, and it's a very interesting finish from the way the watercolor dries on the film. It's because it's not really absorbed into the fibers. Watchman. This is probably a study for a famous painting. Some memorabilia. So, Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg are in a building on Pearl Street. Rauschenberg had already been in the 9th Street show and was a kind of a rising star. I believe he'd already erased the de Kooning drawing, and so he had kind of a reputation as the bad boy of the downtown painting scene. Now, Leo Castelli was the guy that, this is titled Studio, 1964. Leo Castelli was the guy that curated the 9th Street show, and at some point, I think it was the Stable Gallery up around 57th Street, took over that project, and for several years they curated shows. Oh gosh, is that David Solly? Could be. They curated shows being selected by artists. At some point, Leo went by one of the shows and saw a strange painting. It's a green flag. This is untitled 1998 Encaustic Canvas with Objects. Anyway, Rauschenberg had been trying to charm Leo into giving him a show at his new gallery. This is 1957. Untitled 1995. So this is 26 years old, 30 years old, something like that. Anyway, Leo comes to Robert Rauschenberg's studio. Doesn't know who's living upstairs. Starts talking to Rauschenberg. I guess his wife, Liana, was there. It's untitled Halloween 1998. I like that he did a whole series with this string piece in here. I can't remember what the title of that was. This series. Anyway, so Leo and Bob and Ileana are hanging around and start to have some drinks, and Leo says, gee, I don't like to drink scotch without ice. And so Robert says, well, my neighbor's got ice. Let's go up to his, get something out of his refrigerator. And they go upstairs to Jasper Johns' studio. And gosh, Leo walks in and he's blown away. This is untitled 2010. Ink on plastic. Well, Leo sees Jasper Johns' work. He automatically realizes that this was the same artist that had done the strange green painting he'd seen at one of the Stable Gallery annuals. It's untitled 1992-1994. Encaustic on canvas. Anyway, Leo on the spot offers Jasper Johns a show at the gallery. I guess Rauschenberg probably felt a little miffed. It's untitled 1996 lithograph. I was going to say, not only was Jasper Johns a prolific printmaker, but he worked with probably some of the finest printmakers in the world, technically. Gosh, I'm seeing a lot of people. I would recognize these people without their masks on. There's Walter Robinson, Adrian Deneau. This guy was according to what, 1964? According to what, 1969, graphite and pencil and graphite wash on paper. So Jasper Johns is kind of a reference to Marcel Duchamp's piece of multiple called the Green Box. Oh, to Jasper Johns. Symbol des Well, this is Marcel Duchamp, The Bride Stripped Bare by Her Bachelor, Even the Green Box, 1934. Okay. I thought I recognized that. Marcel Duchamp, MD, 1964.
Our upcoming talk that's going to be moderated online by modern art. He's a great expert at Johns and also a former Philadelphia Museum of Art curator.
Scott Rothkopf,
On October
one of the
6th,
main curators here.
and it'll be a chance to talk more in depth about the making of the show.
But one thing that we both found really interesting is that she is one of the first critics who really speaks about Jasper in terms of a sort of ritualization of his daily life that has to do with the practice, and so how he was performing in his life a sort of rehearsal of what a life as a work of art might be. So I think that's the point in which Johns is profoundly Duchampian. I think that he's profoundly ritualistic in the way in which he conducts his life, which is the same thing as his work, and I think Barbara Rose saw that in him.
Well, we will let the curators continue because we don't want this to be a video of a couple of curators talking. We would rather look at the actual work itself. So these are all a bunch of drawings and lithographs. They're all fragments according to what blue. And as I was saying, this is one of the, I think, major pieces that John started producing after his initial recognition from his first show. He was saying that this leg is a wax cast of Barbara Rose's leg. Barbara Rose was a young curator, critic, some other things. I believe that she was working behind the desk at the Hansa Gallery, maybe in the late 50s. The Hansa Gallery was one of the first co-op galleries. It actually was in the East Village, I believe on 12th Street. This is interesting. I was talking about John's use of gray and how some of the map pieces he started to break out of that. And this, you can see that he's actually looking at color, and he's painted his little color charts. And he's got some silk screens of something in there. And a lot of objects. He's constantly using the spoons and letters. Okay, so I would say that this piece is probably maybe 10 feet by 16, 18 feet, something like that. According to what, 1964, saying this is 6 panels. Arrive, depart. Again, here's our kind of conceptual or even poetic kind of notion of playing with language and color. Okay, so we've got our yellow, red, and blue squares. Oh, this is a beautiful piece. Paintfield, 1963-64, oil on canvas with objects, 2 panels, and neon. So again, we've got, this is another kind of iconic symbol that Johns uses a lot, is the Savarin coffee can. It was before they had Starbucks. Ballantine beer cans. Untitled, 1977. I enjoy the kind of ruggedness, the urgency of some of these pieces, and seems like it only gets better with age. Some of the things are starting to get a little decrepit and age-stained. Leo Castelli, 1968. And that's interesting lithograph. So this is titled Studio, 1966. And in the wall text, they are talking about how Johns would, from time to time, present a selected group of works that were all related to a particular motif. And in 1968, he happened to show this group of paintings at Leo Castelli's, I think it's on 77th Street Townhouse Gallery. Well, I was talking about him having his first show with Leo Castelli, I think 1957. And of course, it was a smashing success. I believe that Philip Johnson, who is very closely connected to the Museum of Modern Art, acquired about 3 of the paintings, and maybe there were 8 or 10 paintings in the show. So if you can get about a third of your show going to the Museum of Modern Art, you're doing pretty good. This is titled Harlem Night, 1967, oil and collage on canvas, 4 panels. Also, use this device of the little wedge kind of extending out of the rectangle. Again, we've got our kind of color blocks. They were saying that these sections here were a motif that Johns borrowed from seeing a painted stone wall. And I know that his cross-hatching series, he said he saw walls in Mexico painted with the cross-hatching patterns, and he kind of borrowed that. It's titled Wall Piece 1968. I think one of the other things I'm kind of noticing is that Johns is really a great formalist in that he's using a lot of geometry, squares, rectangles, triangles, and in that sense he probably did forecast some of the things that were happening when minimalism came along about 7 or 8 years later. Again, we've got our spoons. They're saying these are silk screens on there. I think he's got some text. The work should be 7.5 inches long. Okay, so in that way it kind of relates to a lot of the things that Christopher Wool has been doing recently with his large silkscreen paintings. All kind titled Silkscreen Pieces 1, 2, and 3. Well, I've ran through 2 of my batteries. I've only got 1 more. So this is a series of 15 monoprints titled Sovereign, based on this famous sculpture, the paintbrushes in the Sovereign can. I'm going to keep moving because I don't want to run out of the batteries before I get done with the report. One anecdote I should add is that I believe in 2017, one of Jasper Johns' assistants was charged with stealing some of his drawings. A guy named James Mayer. I guess that James had worked for him for mirror double, had worked for him for years, and maybe when Jasper Johns was moving from his Manhattan apartment upstate somewhere, up the Hudson River, that James Mayer somehow came into possession. This is White numbers 1959. Okay, so we're kind of going through the various themes of his work. Numbers 1963, this is cast aluminum. The reason I mention this is that they eventually caught Mr. Mayer, and well, he went to jail. I think there was, gosh, I don't know how many millions of dollars worth of drawings were involved. Mirror's Edge 1992. Probably within about 6 months before he got busted, I started getting emails from him because of my Kalm reports, and probably because I'd been covering a lot of the downtown art scene and also a lot of unrecognized artists. I ended up getting emails from him. He wanted me to come by his studio. He sent me a stack of his catalogs, and well, I was kind of impressed. A lot of this was public artworks, metalwork. Anyway, once you know it, ends up getting busted, and of course takes his name off of all the social media things, and I never heard from him again. But this is Mirror's Edge 1993. Actually thinking that these are some of the pieces that I find interesting, because a lot of the early work he kept repeating, say, the maps, the numbers, the alphabets, the targets. So much with the drawings, the prints, the paintings. And it's Decoy 1972. This phase things seem to get a little bit looser. Decoy 1971. Okay, so I've got oil on canvas with objects, but there's also some silk screen in there. So Jasper Johns has had his first show with Leo Castelli. I think Leo was an interesting dealer. He was actually an immigrant from Paris. And he'd been working with a dealer. I was actually a partner with a dealer. I can't remember his name. Gerard, something like that, in Paris, who had been showing wools, Jean Dubuffet and Francis Pacabia, Between the Clock and the Bed. So this is a reference to an Edvard Munch painting, wonderful painting. And they were mentioning that Marcel Duchamp was very important to Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns. Device 1961-62, oil on canvas with objects. And I like his kind of circular squeegees he's got here. Again, oh, and they're made of stretcher bars. Okay. So you kind of use the stretcher bar to apply the paint. Racing Thoughts, 1983. Well, I actually saw this painting at a show at Leo Castelli when he was at 420 West Broadway. And I think it says a lot about Jasper Johns and his cleverness, his ingenuity, his creativity that he was able to, oh, there we got our little double portrait thing. He was able to stay relevant and stay interesting and attract a lot of young artists all through his career, and still is. Racing Thoughts, 1984. Also, I think that it's nice that he's staying painterly. Passages like this are very painterly, and then he's also including these images, but that's not just a photo of Leo Castelli, that's a photo of a puzzle of Leo Castelli. So I'm sure that this kind of stuff was very influential for the pictures generation people. Untitled 2007 graphite pencil on paper with objects with wood frame. Okay. You know, his things that he's adding are all done with very beautiful, maybe that's oak. Nicely joined. Oh, okay, this is the classic beer cans. There's actually two different kinds of cans, and it shows you that Jasper Johns is quite a technician because he hand painted those labels. That's nice work. Well, they're saying that there's over 250 pieces in this show, so we aren't going to get to all of them. So one of my favorite pieces from the later Jasper Johns, Dancers on a Plane, 1979, oil on canvas with partially painted wood frame with objects. I think it's interesting to note that Jasper Johns kind of stepped away from the pure encaustic work and started painting in just oil. Okay, that's interesting. This is from his Four Seasons show, which I also remember going to at Leo Castelli on West Broadway. This is fall, 1986. And we got some more encaustic back in there. You know, one of the things that he's constantly doing is playing the game of what's the difference between reality and a presentation of reality. So, take his flag, for example. Is that a flag? Or is that a painting of a flag? If a flag is a flat thing on a surface, how do you distinguish? Here's another one of his things. He talks about being influenced by Wittgenstein, and that's the famous, the bunny duck image. I think Wittgenstein was concerned with language and how you distinguish one thing from another. You can look at that and you can see it either as a duck or a bunny. I think Wittgenstein was actually interested in what happens in your mind when you're switching gears. It's titled Spring. These are beautifully painted. And then we've got our double silhouette vase, 1968. I'll just take a quick sweep around this gallery. Oh, these are calling these the small pieces. Changes of the rare contemporary artist who has produced diminutive work throughout his entire career, although most of them relate to larger, better known examples. They are not studies. Okay, well, actually, I like this idea. We've got his flags. Here's one of the green paintings. Study of flags. Oh gosh, I'd just love to stick that in my backpack and take it home. Or that. Oh. I think this might also be said to be influenced by Marcel Duchamp and his green box. Maybe. Oh. Studies for 0 through 9, 1968, watercolor and graphite and pencil on paper, 10 sheets. Okay, so we've got a little study of a Cézanne. It's calling that a tracing, 1977. Dreams. In the studio, 1982, encaustic and crayon. I like his cast body parts that he's been doing since, I guess, maybe the early 60s, and well, you can see that that has influenced a lot of people like Robert Gober. The Bath. It's encaustic on canvas, 1988. Okay, here's something that is interesting, is the way he's kind of melted this. I guess it's a Picasso painting. Maybe that's Dora Maar, I'm not sure. And then I'll draw your attention to this. There's this kind of mysterious figure in the blue background. A lot of people have been trying to figure out, he uses this again and again. A lot of people have been trying to figure out exactly where that comes from, whether this is part of a Bosch or a Bruegel. Okay, I like this series. Montez Singing, 1989. It's encaustic, but I like the kind of the obvious goofy humor of this. He's done many versions. Also, that was kind of playing with the build-up, the kind of the popcorn impasto, as I've called it, that you can get if you keep going back and dragging in elements and adding textures to the paintings. And I think that kind of the humor of some of these, it's not overt humor, it's kind of conceptual humor, is another reference to Duchamp. It's untitled, 1991, encaustic and sand on canvas. Well, been thinking about the perfect size for an easel painting, and I think that's pretty close. Untitled, 1997. Well, not only have I covered several, or at least 3 museum retrospectives of Jasper Johns, but I've tried to stay on top of his one-person shows, and I think I've got at least a couple of them at Matthew Mark's. Oh, that's a sweet little piece. Okay, we're not going to get the titles for these. They were saying that Jasper Johns might be one of the most popular artists in America, and I would say that it's probably, at this point, It's between him and a few people like Jean-Michel Basquiat and Andy Warhol. But if you look at the incredible diversity of mediums and scales and ideas and things that he's switching up, I think Johns would be maybe the most not only prolific but wide-ranging artists out of all of them. Okay, it's a little sketch on somebody's paper. Jasper Johns. Okay, there's his address, folks. I think another thing that I like is that Jasper Johns is constantly quoting from various art historical things. And if you're not a little initiated in the codes of the art world and art history, you might miss a lot of this. Okay, we're just going to walk through this section of his cast numbers. I think that one was silver, bronze. And again, I think it's kind of fun that he's making sculptures of paintings. Okay, so he's got all kinds of little things that he's added in there. Okay, so this is a major cast piece. Numbers 2007, cast 2008. This is aluminum. So this is based on a sculpture that was done in 1964. But again, I was saying he's got some kind of textural thing that he's using in there, so I don't know whether he was using offset printing plates that he's casting. And then dripping wax on here so that it relates to the idea of painting. Gosh, I'd never noticed his little diagonal line of the fours there. That's interesting. Okay, well, we're getting close. We better keep moving. Elegies in the Dark. I guess you could classify this as the late work. Untitled Monotype. We'll kind of see a summation of a lot of his various motifs and themes. These are all entitled. So we've got our double portrait silhouettes that form the vase. I think one of the things about the way that Jasper Johns works is that a lot of this really does depend on just his pure feeling for the various kinds of materials he's working with. This one we've got a very kind of cushy, soft, looks like rice paper, and he's able to use that to achieve certain things. This is the drafting film which is just about the opposite kind of surface. It's very resistant to any absorption. Cantenary, I call the grave 1998. That's what I was thinking about. Cantenary, that's what they're calling these draped cords. And again, now he's gone very minimal, a lot of gray and caustic. And he's got these two slats that extend out from the sides.
I'm going to demonstrate the painting.
Okay, we got a personal demonstration from Jerry Saltz.
3 real shadows, 1 painted shadow.
You know why there are 3 shadows there, right, Jerry?
I don't.
Because there are 3 light bulbs flashing on it. If you only had 1 light bulb, there would only be 1 shadow.
Artists, they know this. 1,
And the physicists.
2. He's a genius. Well, then how many is that going to have without looking? I'm going to
At
get
least 4.
4. Watch, I'm going to blow on it. It's like tubes of energy coming from one part of your body or of the painting to the other. String is gesture, materialized gesture, over the Degas that got cut up, whatever. I kind of think
There's a Degas under there? Is that
Yeah.
what's... Oh, okay.
it's a painted Degas that Manet put back together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels. All of that was destroyed. Johns found, that Manet had done this and then made this. I just love the vulnerability. Like you, like me. We're blown away. All right.
Yeah, I've only been looking at his work for about 50 some odd years, ever since I was about 13 or 14.
You know it backwards and forward.
Well, not quite. You just pointed out something new to me, Jerry.
Well, we all get new.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks. That was very insightful. Okay.
Yours is really work.
Okay, yeah.
Watch. Look
Not
at this
much of
great
that
ass.
survived, yeah.
Look at this great Pollock ass.
Okay. Talk about a great Pollock ass. Well, we're gonna keep running. I was mentioning about how I like Johns' references and quotations. These are both untitled. Now he's gone to acrylic. So this is 2017. I think we might have views of this at his last show at Matthew Marks. I guess that was 2.5 years ago. Untitled 2013 to 2014. They did make a point of saying that he was one of the few serious artists that also made small paintings, which I think are just like wonderful little jewels. This is a little bit larger than that, but also it's just the standard size of a painting you could hang on the wall in your hallway. It's not like the abstract expressionist size. Okay, we're going to, I guess this is fitting with, finish up with his late pieces that are dealing with mortality. Untitled 2018. So we've got his death head, the skeleton kind of projected inside the silhouette of this character. Bookie's wary of tiger's odds. That's very timely. Okay. Okay, so that signature looks like it was a frottage of some kind of embossed name tag. There's color things. Another untitled 2018. So in certain ways he's kind of summing up his 60 some odd, 65 years of painting. He's got his cross hatching. He's got references to his vases, the brick walls. Got our death head. A lot of the grays played off against other sections that have got a little more color. Stick figures. Regrets 2013 oil on canvas. This derives from a photograph of the British painter Lucian Freud perched on a bed. Okay, so I like the signature thing there in a certain way that makes me think of some of the graph writers. And Al Seamus, another famous kind of outsider New York artist, at some point started blowing up his signatures and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so we'll see if we can find the Lucian Freud part of this. Oh, there's Jerry and the curator. Okay. Slice 2020, completed during the COVID-19 pandemic. John's most recent major painting, Slice, juxtaposes an interior view of the human body with the breadth of the cosmos at the right. John silkscreened an anatomical diagram of a knee, which he originally saw in his orthopedist's office. Drawn and signed by a high school student named Jean-Marc Tagodieu. Okay, I actually looked at that and it made me think of Jean-Michel Basquiat, but could be a young protege. Okay, so Johns has this fanning out series of circles. This is all oil on canvas. And I wonder if these little pom-pom-like dots refer to the COVID virus. I know a lot of people that are, well, over 65 that have age as one of their comorbidities that have become very reclusive. A lot of people are staying indoors, not going out, avoiding, well, things like this. Could be a super spreader. Sharon Butler. This is Untitled 2018. Okay, so this belongs to a group of works based on a 1965 Vietnam War photograph by Larry Burroughs, published in Life magazine. The picture features Marine Lance Corporal James Farley alone in a storeroom after combat, crumbled in grief over the loss of a comrade. I was talking about how Johns would take an image of something and chop it up and change it and flip it and do various things. And unless you it's like Jerry was pointing out, unless you know the code, it's very hard, or you have to spend a lot of time figuring out the puzzles and the labyrinths of perception to figure out what's going on. This is a watercolor study of that piece on film. So you can sort of figure out the corporal's body here laying there, and then he's kind of reflected. This is where the mirror part of the title of the show comes from, I think. Title: Farley breaks down ink and water soluble and caustic on plastic. Well, I don't have time to go through the list of titles on all these pieces. But I would say that chronologically, I think these are the most recent pieces. These look like soft ground etchings or maybe sugar lift etchings. Okay, most of these are untitled. I was talking about him working with master printers, and boy, when you see someone that is able to get an overlay of gray on a print like that, you're talking about somebody that is very good with inking their plates and mixing the inks and taking the time to get these all to work out beautifully. So, get 1996. Gosh, this is a big piece. The season's 1998. Oh, this is fun. So we've got our Cicada series, the cross hatchings, and yeah, Jasper is a great colorist when he wants to be. Corpse and mirror. Flags 1973. I think some of these might have been printed at the Tamarind Institute. Oh, bread. Okay, I have to laugh. I was at Chris Martin's studio and he showed me a series of paintings he had that he was using loaves of Wonder Bread and laying them out on the canvas and then coating them with plastic, and he said he still had mice coming in and chewing on them. Figure 1968. Target 1968. So it is great to see how he goes back and revisits previous subjects, previous motifs that he's passed on from for years. Watchmen 1968. Voice 1967. Summer Critic, because these are sunglasses as opposed to his other Critic Speaks. Two Maps 1966. Okay, this is another favorite. Painting with two balls. So this has been a walkthrough Mind Mirror Jasper Johns retrospective at the Whitney. You can like this, subscribe, share, link it up to all your social media sites, and you can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, suggestions below. We just ask you to say, thank you, Kate. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you.